I am Bella, 28, and literally last weekend, my rep as the family pleaser? Yeah, it totally backfired. The love I'd worked my butt off to earn from my parents, it blew up into a full-on emotional ambush at our so-called happy family dinner. My parents, those masters of conditional affection, straight up demanded I cancel my engagement to Alex, and when I clapped back, the room went dead silent. "You're choosing him over us?" my mother yelled, with everyone staring like I'd just set the table on fire. But here's the tea. Their shade didn't break me, it lit a spark. I'm not just pushing back, I'm about to flip the script and change everything. A quick note, this story is copyrighted by the YouTube channel Guest Stories. Reposting, revoicing, or editing this content without permission constitutes copyright infringement. Thank you for respecting original creative work. Now, back to the story. The dining room smelled of roasted lamb and resentment. I sat at the polished oak table, my fingers tracing the edge of my napkin, folding and unfolding it as my mother's voice sliced through the chatter. "Bella, you're throwing your life away," she said, her lips pursed like she'd just tasted something sour. My father, sitting at the head of the table, didn't look up from his plate, but his fork paused midair, a silent cosign to her attack. My siblings, Clara and Ethan, exchanged glances, their faces a mix of pity and relief that they weren't the ones in the hot seat this time. The air felt thick, like the moment before a storm breaks. I'd spent my whole life chasing their approval. Growing up, I was the kid who'd stay up late perfecting school projects, hoping for a nod or a good job that never came. Instead, it was always Clara's piano recitals or Ethan's soccer trophies that got the spotlight. I'd sit there, clapping along, my smile plastered on while my chest ached for a sliver of their pride. Now, at 28, with a solid career in marketing and a fiancé who actually saw me, I thought I'd finally earned my place. But no, my engagement to Alex, the kindest man I'd ever met, was apparently a betrayal. "He's not our kind of people," my father had said earlier that evening, his tone dripping with disdain as he sipped his scotch. What he meant was Alex didn't fit their mold. Old money, elite connections, a life planned out like a spreadsheet. The dinner was supposed to be a celebration of my engagement, or so I'd naively hoped. I'd spent weeks planning it, picking their favorite dishes, even buying a new dress, a soft blue number that hugged my curves just right, hoping it might soften their edges. But as soon as I walked in, I felt the shift. My mother's eyes narrowed at my ring, a simple band with a small sapphire, nothing like the gaudy diamonds she'd have chosen. "You could have done better," she muttered, loud enough for the room to hear. I laughed it off, my throat tight, but inside I was screaming. Why was it never enough? As the meal progressed, their jabs grew sharper. My mother leaned forward, her perfectly manicured nails tapping the table. "You're rushing into this, Bella, you don't even know him." I bit my lip, hard, tasting the metallic tang of restraint. Alex and I had been together for 2 years, longer than any of their approved relationships had lasted. I wanted to tell her how he'd sit with me through late-night work sessions, bringing me coffee and stupid jokes to keep me going, how he'd hold me when the weight of their expectations crushed me. But I didn't. I just sat there, my hands clenched under the table, my nails digging into my palms. Then came the ultimatum. My father finally looked up, his eyes cold, like I was a business deal gone wrong. "End it with Alex, or you're done here," he said. The words landed like a punch. Clara gasped, her fork clattering against her plate. Ethan stared at his lap, avoiding my gaze. I felt my face flush, my heart pounding so loud I thought they'd hear it. "Done?" I managed, my voice shaking. "You mean disowned?" My mother nodded, her expression smug, like she'd just won a game I didn't know we were playing. I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. "You don't get to control me anymore," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. The room froze. My mother's mouth opened, but no words came out. For the first time I saw a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. I turned and walked out, my heels clicking on the hardwood, each step a declaration. I wasn't just leaving the dinner. I was leaving their game. Outside, the cool night air hit my face and I gulped it down, trying to steady my shaking hands. My phone buzzed in my purse. Alex, checking in. "You okay?" his text read. I smiled, despite everything. He was my anchor, the one person who didn't see me as a project to fix. As I typed back a quick, "I'll survive," I felt that spark from earlier grow. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something new. But as I slid into my car, the engine humming to life under my trembling hands, that spark flickered into something hotter, memories rushing in like floodwaters. I gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles turning white, staring at the dashboard clock ticking past 9 p.m. The streetlights blurred as tears welled up, not from sadness exactly, but from the raw ache of years spent invisible. How had it come to this? I wiped my eyes with the back of my hand, smearing mascara, and let my mind drift back, piecing together the pattern that had led me here. It wasn't just tonight's dinner. It was a lifetime of being sidelined, my efforts dismissed like yesterday's news while my siblings basked in the glow of parental pride. I remembered my high school graduation, clear as day. I'd worked my ass off, graduating top of my class, even landing a partial scholarship for marketing at a decent state university. The ceremony was in the school auditorium, the air stuffy with the scent of fresh flowers and nervous sweat. I walked across the stage, my cap tassel swinging, heart pounding with hope. But when I looked out into the crowd, my parents were clapping politely, their smiles tight like it was an obligation. Later, at the family barbecue in our backyard, they barely mentioned it. "Good job, Bella," my dad muttered, already turning to Ethan, who had just made varsity soccer as a freshman. "Now that's something to celebrate," he boomed, slapping Ethan on the back, pulling out the grill tools to fire up steaks just for him. My mom nodded along, her eyes lighting up as she recounted Ethan's game highlights to the neighbors. I stood there, diploma in hand, feeling like a ghost at my own party. Clara, ever the golden child, had won a debate tournament that same week. Something intellectual, as Mom called it, and they toasted her with champagne flutes while I nursed a soda in the corner. Fast forward to college, and the pattern dug deeper. I'd interned at a small ad agency during my junior year, creating a campaign that actually got picked up by a local brand. It was my first real win. Billboards around town with my tagline, "Connect Beyond the Screen." I was buzzing with excitement, calling home to share. "That's nice, dear," Mom said over the phone, her voice distracted like she was folding laundry. "But Clara just got into law school, can you believe it? We're so proud." Click. No questions about my work, no, "Tell me more." I hung up, staring at my dorm wall, the rejection settling in my gut like lead. When I visited home for Thanksgiving, the living room was plastered with Clara's acceptance letter framed on the mantel, right next to Ethan's soccer trophies. My campaign? Not a mention. Dad even joked at dinner, "Marketing, huh? Hope it pays the bills better than those artsy types." Everyone laughed, except me. I forced a smile, pushing food around my plate, my appetite gone. Then there was my first big promotion at 25. I'd climbed to junior marketing manager at a mid-sized firm, leading a team on a national launch that boosted sales by 30%. It was huge. I got a bonus, a corner office, the works. I emailed them photos of the launch event, me in a sharp blazer shaking hands with executives. Their reply? A curt, "Congrats," from Dad, followed by paragraphs about Ethan's new job in finance. A real stable career. Mom called later, but only to gush about Clara's first court win as a lawyer. "She's arguing cases now, Bella. Isn't that impressive?" I murmured agreement, my throat tight, while inside I screamed, "What about me?" I spent that night alone in my apartment, scrolling through old family photos on my phone, each one a reminder of the hierarchy. Clara the brain, Ethan the athlete, Bella the afterthought. Even holidays reinforced it. Last Christmas, I'd hosted at my place for the first time, decking out the tree with lights and baking Mom's favorite cookies from scratch. They arrived late, complaining about traffic, and immediately launched into stories about Clara's engagement to some hotshot attorney and Ethan's promotion. My new client win? Brushed off with, "That's great, but let's talk about the wedding plans." I watched them fawn over Clara's ring, their faces alive with joy I'd never seen directed at. Ethan got pats on the back, toasts raised. I refilled drinks, smiling through the sting, my hands busy to hide the hurt. These weren't isolated incidents. They were the fabric of my life. Every achievement I brought home was met with indifference or comparison. "Why can't you be more like your sister?" Mom would say, her tone casual but cutting. Dad's silence was worse, like I didn't register. I'd internalize it, working harder, thinking if I just pushed more, I'd earn their love. But it was conditional. Always tied to fitting their mold. Traditional success, no risks. No Alex types who valued heart over status. As I pulled into my driveway that night, the house dark except for the porch light Alex had left on, those memories crystallized into clarity. I'd been chasing shadows. My phone buzzed again, Alex, with a heart emoji. I texted back, home soon, and stepped out, the cool air grounding me. For the first time I saw the pattern not as my failure, but theirs. The spark ignited fully. I wasn't invisible, I was just in the wrong light. Walking up the steps to our cozy 2-bedroom apartment, the one Alex and I had picked out together last year, I felt the weight of the evening start to lift just a bit. The door was unlocked, like always. He trusted the quiet neighborhood too much, and as I pushed it open, the warm glow from the living room lamp spilled out. Alex was on the couch, his laptop balanced on his knees, typing away at some report for his engineering job. He looked up immediately, his brow furrowing at the sight of my tear-streaked face. "Bella, what happened?" He set the laptop aside, standing up in one fluid motion, his arms opening wide. I stepped into them without a word, burying my face in his chest, inhaling the familiar scent of his cologne, mixed with the faint trace of coffee. His hands rubbed slow circles on my back, patient, waiting for me to speak. That hug was the aha moment I'd been waiting for my whole life, though I didn't fully realize it then. It hit me like a quiet thunderclap. Here was someone who saw me, all of me, without conditions. No demands, no comparisons, just love. I pulled back slightly, looking up at his concerned green eyes, the ones that crinkled at the corners when he smiled. "They gave me an ultimatum," I whispered, my voice cracking. "End it with you, or I'm out." His jaw tightened, a muscle twitching there, but he didn't interrupt. Instead, he guided me to the couch, sitting close, his hand enveloping mine, thumb stroking my knuckles in that soothing way he had. We sat in silence for a minute, the clock on the wall ticking softly as I let the tears flow freely now, hot and unchecked down my cheeks. It all started 2 years ago, at a networking event for young professionals downtown. I'd gone alone, forcing myself out of my shell after another family dismissal. Mom had just called to rave about Clara's latest case win, barely asking about my day. The venue was a sleek rooftop bar, string lights twinkling against the city skyline, the air buzzing with chatter and clinking glasses. I was nursing a soda water, feeling out of place in my black sheath dress, when Alex approached. He was holding 2 drinks, one a bright blue cocktail, the other plain water. "You look like you could use a break from the small talk," he said, his smile easy, no pressure. I laughed, surprised at how genuine it sounded coming from me. We talked for hours about my marketing campaigns, his bridge designs, our shared love for bad sci-fi movies. His laugh was deep, rumbling, and he listened. Really listened, leaning in, eyes locked on mine, not scanning the room for better prospects. By the end of the night, we'd exchanged numbers, and as I drove home, my phone lit up with his text. "Made my night? Coffee tomorrow?" My heart raced, a flutter I hadn't felt in years. But doubt crept in immediately. What would my parents say? They had this image of the perfect partner, wealthy, connected, someone who elevated the family status. Alex was solid, kind, from a middle-class family like mine used to be before Dad's investments paid off. He built things for a living, not traded stocks. I hesitated, my fingers hovering over the reply. If I said yes, I'd have to hide it, at least at first. Keep it secret until I could prove he was worthy. The thought made my stomach twist, but the alternative, another lonely night scrolling through dating apps, pushed me to type yes. The struggle began right there in those early days. Our first date was at a quiet cafe, tucked away from any family haunts. I ordered a latte, my hands fidgeting with the menu, glancing over my shoulder like a spy in a movie. Alex noticed, of course. "Everything okay?" he asked, his fork pausing over his eggs. I forced a smile. Just work stress, but inside guilt gnawed at me. Why was I hiding him? As weeks turned to months, the secrecy intensified. I'd sneak calls during lunch breaks, whispering in my car, heart pounding if a coworker walked by. Weekends were ours, hikes in the woods where no one knew us, picnics by the lake, his hand in mine feeling like a lifeline. But family dinners? I'd lie, say I was working late, my phone on silent to avoid his texts popping up. Once Mom almost caught me. I left my phone on the counter during a visit, and it buzzed with Alex's name. I snatched it up, mumbling spam, my face burning, sweat beading on my forehead. The lies piled up, each one a brick in a wall I hated building. There were nights I'd cry in the shower, water masking the sobs, questioning if it was worth it. Alex sensed it, pulling me close during movie nights on his old couch, his fingers tracing patterns on my arm. "You can tell me anything," he'd say, his voice soft, no judgment. But I couldn't. Not yet. The fear of my parents' reaction was a vice grip. They'd probe during calls. "Seeing anyone?" Mom would ask, her tone probing. "No one special," I'd reply, my voice flat, hating myself. The struggle peaked 6 months in when Alex wanted to meet my family. We were at his place, cooking pasta, steam rising from the pot. He stirred the sauce, casual, but his eyes were serious. "I want this to be real, Bella. All in." I froze, spoon in hand, sauce dripping onto the counter. Tears came unbidden. "They won't approve," I confessed, voice breaking. He set down the spoon, pulling me into his arms, his shirt absorbing my tears. "Then we'll face it together," he said, his chin resting on my head. That vulnerability cracked something open. We grew stronger in the shadows, planning trips, sharing dreams. He supported my late nights at work, leaving notes in my lunch. "You're amazing." I opened up about my family, the invisibility, and he listened, never pitying, just holding space. The hidden success bloomed slowly, our love deepened, untainted by their judgment. A year in, he proposed on a rainy evening walk, down on one knee in a puddle-streaked park, ring in a soggy box. "Marry me, Bella. Let's build our own family." I said yes, sobbing, laughing, the rain mixing with my tears. But the secrecy lingered. I wore the ring on a chain around my neck at family events, tucking it under my shirt, the metal cool against my skin. Until that dinner when I finally wore it openly, sparking the ultimatum. Now, back on the couch with Alex, I slipped the ring back on my finger, twisting it nervously. "I told them no," I said. He squeezed my hand, pride in his eyes. "I'm here. Always." In that moment, the struggle felt worth it. The hidden growth had rooted deep, ready to break through. As we talked late into the night, curled under a blanket, his steady breathing calming my racing thoughts, I realized this was my massive success. A love I'd built in secret, strong enough to withstand the storm. For the first time, I felt seen, not just by him, but by myself. The days blurred into weeks after that ultimatum dinner, each one a mix of wedding planning highs and the low hum of anxiety about my family's silence. No calls, no texts, just radio static from their end, like I'd been erased from their contact. Alex and I threw ourselves into the details. Venue tours at quaint gardens blooming with spring flowers, tastings where we'd sample cakes until our stomachs protested, his hand always finding mine under the table, squeezing reassurance. But as the wedding date loomed just 2 months away now, their absence felt like a shadow lengthening. I'd catch myself staring at my phone during lunch breaks at work, willing it to ring, then shaking my head at the futility. Why chase people who made love a transaction? Yet the child in me still craved closure. Or maybe just one last chance to prove I was worthy. Tonight was that chance, or so I'd convinced myself. The annual family dinner, a tradition Mom insisted on every spring to keep us connected, was happening at their house, the sprawling colonial with its manicured lawn and white picket fence that screamed perfection to the neighbors. I'd debated skipping it, pacing our living room floor last night while Alex watched from the armchair, his book forgotten in his lap. "You don't owe them anything," he'd said, his voice gentle but firm, reaching out to still my steps with a touch on my arm. I nodded, but deep down I knew I'd go. Not for them, but for me, to face the manipulation head-on, now that my engagement was out in the open. Their texts had started trickling in after the ultimatum. Subtle at first, Mom's "we miss you" with no apology, Dad's "let's talk business" like my life was a negotiation, but lately they'd ramped up, laced with guilt trips. "Your siblings are worried," Mom wrote yesterday, as if Clara and Ethan hadn't stayed silent too. I deleted it, my thumb hovering before pressing, a small act of defiance that made my pulse quicken. I stood in front of our bedroom mirror now, the late afternoon sun slanting through the curtains, casting long shadows on the carpet. My hands smoothed down the front of my dress, a simple floral print, knee-length, nothing flashy that might invite criticism. I twisted side to side, checking for wrinkles, my reflection staring back with tired eyes, ringed by faint dark circles from sleepless nights. Wedding stress, I'd tell colleagues, but it was more dreams of showing up at the altar alone, or worse, with my parents' voices echoing disapproval. I reached for my earrings, small pearls Alex had given me for my birthday, fumbling the clasp with shaky fingers. It slipped, clattering into the sink. Damn, I muttered, fishing it out, the cool metal slick against my palm. As I fastened it, memories of past dinners flooded in, not the full-blown flashbacks, but snippets. Mom's arched eyebrow at my career choices, Dad's grunt when I mentioned Alex's job. Tonight would be worse, the engagement had poked the bear. In the kitchen, Alex was packing a bottle of wine into a gift bag, his movements deliberate like he was armoring up too. You sure about this? He asked, tying the ribbon with a precise knot, his fingers lingering on the bow. I leaned against the counter, crossing my arms over my chest, feeling the rapid thump of my heart. I have to, I said, my voice quieter than intended. If I don't, they'll say I ran away. He turned, his expression softening, stepping close to cup my face in his hands. His thumbs brushed my cheeks, warm and steady. You're not running, you're choosing us. He kissed my forehead, lingering, his breath a calm anchor. I closed my eyes, letting it sink in, but doubt nibbled at the edges. What if they twisted things again, made me question everything? As we drove to their house, the car filled with the hum of the engine and soft radio static, I'd turned down the volume to think. The neighborhoods shifted from our modest apartments to their upscale suburb. Trees lined the streets, leaves rustling in the breeze, houses growing larger, more imposing. My hands twisted in my lap, nails picking at a cuticle until it stung. Alex glanced over, his hand covering mine, stilling the motion. Breathe, he said, squeezing gently. I nodded, inhaling deeply, the air tasting of impending rain. We pulled into their driveway, the gravel crunching under tires, and I spotted Clara's car already there, Ethan's truck beside it. My stomach knotted. Full house meant full audience for whatever drama unfolded. I grabbed the wine bag, clutching it like a shield as we walked up the brick path. Flowers bordered it, tulips in neat rows, Mom's pride. The door opened before we knocked, Mom standing there in her pressed blouse and slacks, smile too wide, eyes not quite matching. Bella, Alex, she said, pulling me into a hug that felt stiff, her arms loose around my shoulders. I patted her back awkwardly, catching the scent of her perfume, sharp and floral, the same one she'd worn since I was a kid. Dad appeared behind her, nodding curtly, his handshake with Alex firm, almost challenging. Come in, he said, stepping aside, his voice neutral but his eyes scanning us like we were suspects. The living room was unchanged, plush sofas, family photos on the walls, mostly Clara and Ethan in their glory moments, me in the background. Clara rose from the couch, her hug quick, perfunctory, her good to see you mumbled. Ethan waved from his seat, beer in hand, eyes on the TV screen flickering with a sports game. No warmth, just obligation. We sat, the silence thick until Mom bustled in with appetizers, cheese platter, crackers arranged precisely. So the wedding, she started, her tone light but probing, handing me a plate. I took it, fingers gripping too tight, the porcelain cool. Tell us about the plans. It was bait, I knew, to steer into criticism. As conversation tiptoed around safe topics, work, weather, their manipulations simmered beneath. Dad's Alex, what do you do again? With that condescending tilt, like he'd forgotten on purpose. Mom's, Bella, have you thought about inviting Aunt Lydia? Family is important. The subtext screamed, unlike your choice. I answered shortly, my words clipped, while inside anger bubbled. Alex fielded questions gracefully, his hand on my knee under the table, a subtle press every time tension spiked. Dinner was served in the dining room, the table set with china, candles flickering. I poked at my salad, appetite gone as Mom circled back. We're concerned, Bella. This engagement, it's fast. Her fork speared a tomato, juice squirting. I set mine down, clinking loudly. It's not fast, you just don't like him. The room hushed. Dad cleared his throat. We want what's best. I met his gaze, my jaw set. No, you want control. The argument escalated slowly, voices rising, my siblings shifting uncomfortably. Mom's tears, crocodile, I thought bitterly. Dad's ultimatums revisited. By dessert I'd had enough, standing abruptly, chair scraping. We're leaving. Alex followed, his support silent but solid. As we drove away, rain pattering on the windshield, I felt the intensification of their games like a noose loosening. The wedding was coming, and so was my breaking point. As we drove away, rain pattering on the windshield, I felt the intensification of their games like a noose loosening. The wedding was coming, and so was my breaking point. But halfway down the block, my hands still shaking on my lap, I blurted out, "Stop the car, Alex!" He glanced over, his brow furrowed under the dashboard glow, foot easing off the gas. The wipers swished rhythmically, clearing streaks of water that mirrored the mess in my head. "What?" he asked, pulling over to the curb, the engine idling low. I stared at the blurry taillights of a passing car, my chest heaving. "I can't just leave like that, they'll think they won." My voice was tight, fists clenching until my nails bit into my palms. Alex reached over, his fingers prying mine open gently, his touch warm against the chill seeping in from the window. "Bella, you don't have to prove anything." But I did. Years of swallowing their barbs had built to this. Running now would let them keep the power. "Turn around," I said, my tone firmer than I felt. He searched my face, then nodded slowly, shifting into drive. The tires splashed through a puddle as we looped back, the house lights looming again like judgmental eyes. We parked in the same spot, gravel crunching anew, and I led the way up the path, my steps deliberate, rain dampening my hair. Alex trailed close, his hand brushing my elbow, a silent, "I'm here." I knocked sharply, the sound echoing in my ears. Mom opened the door, her eyes widening, a napkin still clutched in her hand like she'd been dabbing at those fake tears. "Bella?" she said, stepping back, surprise cracking her composed mask. Dad's voice boomed from inside. "Who's that?" We stepped in without waiting for an invite, water dripping from our shoes onto the entry rug. The dining room smelled of cooling roast and tension, plates half-eaten, candles guttering low. Clara and Ethan looked up from their seats, forks paused, faces a mix of confusion and discomfort. "We weren't done talking," I said, my voice steady, though my knees felt like jelly. I pulled out my chair, the wood scraping loudly, and sat, Alex doing the same beside me. Mom hovered, then sank into her seat, smoothing her blouse with fidgety hands. The barrage started almost immediately, subtle at first, like testing the waters. Dad leaned back, crossing his arms over his chest, his watch glinting under the chandelier light. "So you came back, decided to listen to reason?" His tone was patronizing, like I was a child throwing a tantrum. I met his gaze, my jaw set, refusing to drop my eyes. "No, I came back to hear you out, all of it." Mom jumped in, her voice syrupy with false concern, pouring more wine into her glass, the liquid sloshing a bit too high. "We're just worried, honey. Alex seems nice, but is he really the best for you?" She glanced at him, her smile thin, not reaching her eyes. Alex stiffened beside me, his knee pressing against mine under the table for support. I felt his fingers twitch, like he wanted to grab my hand, but he kept them on his lap, knuckles whitening. They ramped up, the questions coming like darts, each one laced with condescension. "What does he do again, Bella? Engineering? That's stable, I suppose, but not exactly ambitious." Dad said it casually, spearing a piece of meat with his fork, chewing slowly, as if savoring the dig. I swallowed hard, my throat dry, tasting the bitterness rising. "He's brilliant at it, designs bridges that keep people safe." But Mom waved that off, her hand fluttering, rings catching the light. "Safe is fine, but Clara's fiancé is a partner at his firm already. They're buying a house in the hills." She turned to Clara, who nodded awkwardly, her cheeks flushing, avoiding my stare by pushing peas around her plate. Ethan chimed in for the first time, his voice gruff, beer bottle sweating in his grip. "Yeah, and my job in finance pays for the good life. Alex, you ever think about switching fields?" Alex answered calmly, "I love what I do." But I saw the tight line of his mouth, the way he shifted in his seat, foot tapping faintly against the leg of the table. The backhanded compliments twisted the knife deeper. "You're so independent, Bella," Mom said, tilting her head, her earrings swaying. "It's admirable, really. Not everyone can make it without family help." The implication hung there, that I'd fail without them, that Alex couldn't provide. My face burned, heat creeping up my neck, and I gripped the edge of the tablecloth, twisting the fabric until it bunched in my fist. "I've made it just fine," I muttered, but she pressed on. "And your marketing job? Creative, isn't it? Not like Ethan's deals, closing millions." Ethan smirked a little, taking a swig of beer, his Adam's apple bobbing. Dad nodded approvingly at him, the pride evident in his relaxed posture, shoulders back. Clara added softly, "We're happy for you, sis, but are you sure about the wedding? It's a big step." Her words were gentle, but the pity in her eyes stung, like she saw me as the family charity case. I endured it, bite by bite, as dessert was served. Apple pie? Steam rising, but it tasted like ash in my mouth. Every jab made me clench my teeth, my molars grinding quietly. Alex fielded some, his voice even, but I saw the strain in his averted gaze, the way he poked at his pie without eating. Inside, my thoughts raced. Why do I keep coming back for this? Their words chipped away, each one a reminder of the conditional love I'd chased forever. Mom reached across, patting my hand, her touch cool and brief. We just want you to have what we have, security status. But her eyes flicked to my ring, disdain flickering. That stone is quaint. I pulled my hand away, tucking it under the table, my nails digging into my thigh to keep from snapping. As the evening dragged, the contempt built layers, their voices overlapping in a chorus of undermining. Dad quizzed Alex on his family background, his eyebrow arched. Middle class, huh? Hard work builds character, I guess. Mom complimented my dress. Cute, for off the rack, her lips curving in a smile that didn't warm. My siblings stayed mostly quiet, but their silence co-signed it all, Ethan's occasional chuckle like salt in the wound. I sat there, spine straight, forcing breaths in and out, my heart hammering. The room felt smaller, the air heavier with each word. But underneath the hurt, anger simmered, fueling that spark from earlier. I wasn't breaking yet. I was bending, waiting for the snap. By the time coffee was poured, steam curling up, my hands steadier around the mug, I'd absorbed it all, their attempts to belittle Alex, to make me doubt. Alex squeezed my knee again, a quick pulse of solidarity. I glanced at him, his eyes meeting mine with quiet strength. We could leave now, but I stayed, letting their words wash over, cataloging each one. This gauntlet was their weapon, but it was sharpening mine. The coffee cooled in my mug, untouched, as the conversation hung in a fragile lull, the steam no longer rising, just faint wisps dissolving into the air. Dad set his cup down with a deliberate clink, the porcelain ringing against the saucer, his fingers drumming once on the table before folding into a steeple. Mom glanced at him, her eyes narrowing slightly, a silent signal passing between them like they'd rehearsed this. Clara shifted in her seat, her chair creaking faintly, while Ethan took a long pull from his beer, his throat working as he swallowed, eyes fixed on the label he was peeling with his thumbnail. Alex's hand rested on my thigh now, under the tablecloth, his palm warm and steady, thumb making tiny, reassuring strokes. I drew a breath, the air tasting stale, laced with the remnants of pie spice and unspoken venom. Their weapon had cut deep, but I wasn't bleeding out yet. I was coiling, ready. Dad cleared his throat, the sound gravelly, breaking the silence like a judge's gavel. Bella, we've talked enough circles. It's time to lay it out straight. His voice was measured, businesslike, the same tone he'd use closing a deal at work. I straightened, my spine pressing against the chair back, feeling the wood dig in. Lay what out? I asked, my words even, though my pulse thudded in my ears. Mom leaned forward, her elbows on the table, hands clasped so tight her knuckles blanched white. Your choices have consequences, she said, her gaze locking on mine, unblinking, like she was trying to will me into submission. Alex tensed beside me, his fingers pausing their motion, gripping a fraction tighter. It escalated from there, the words building like a wave cresting. Dad continued, we've supported you your whole life, school, that apartment deposit, even your little marketing gigs when they didn't pan out. His lip curled slightly on little, a micro sneer that made my stomach twist. I opened my mouth, but Mom cut in, her voice rising a pitch. And this is how you repay us? By marrying someone who drags you down? She gestured vaguely at Alex, her hand waving dismissively, nails catching the candlelight. Alex's jaw clenched, a muscle jumping there, but he stayed silent, his free hand curling into a loose fist on the table. Clara murmured something about family unity, her words soft, half-hearted, while Ethan nodded along, his beer bottle, now empty, set down with a hollow thunk. I pushed back, my voice gaining strength. Drags me down? Alex lifts me up, something you've never done without strings. The room stilled, forks forgotten, the only sound the faint drip from the kitchen faucet echoing down the hall. Dad's eyes hardened, his chair scraping as he leaned in. Watch your tone. We've given you everything, and you're throwing it away for this? He nodded curtly at Alex, who finally spoke, his tone calm but edged. With respect, sir, Bella's happiness isn't a transaction. Mom gasped, her hand flying to her chest, fingers splaying over her necklace. "How dare you," she hissed, tears welling artfully in her eyes, one spilling over to track down her cheek. She dabbed at it with her napkin, the motion dramatic, calculated. The formal announcement came then, swift and cutting, like ripping off a bandage. Dad stood slowly, his height imposing, hands flat on the table, veins standing out on his forearms. "If you go through with this wedding, you're out. No more family, no inheritance, no contact, nothing." His words landed heavy, each one a stone dropped into still water, rippling out. Mom nodded vigorously, her chin trembling. "We've booked tickets to Hawaii instead. Leaving tomorrow morning, we won't watch you ruin your life." The revelation punched me, my breath catching, eyes widening. Hawaii, on my wedding day? I stared, mouth agape, as images flashed, them lounging on beaches while I walked down the aisle alone. Clara looked down, twisting her napkin in her lap, shreds of paper falling like confetti. Ethan coughed, shifting uncomfortably, his foot tapping under the table. But they weren't done. Mom rose too, her voice quavering with feigned emotion. "And your dress, the one we paid for? Consider it gone." She paused, her eyes gleaming with something cruel. "We took care of it, burned it in the backyard pit this afternoon, to save you from yourself." My heart stopped, a cold wave crashing over me. The dress, ivory lace, fitted bodice, the one I'd tried on with tears of joy dreaming of the day. Burned? I pictured it, flames licking the fabric, turning it to ash, their faces illuminated by the fire, satisfied. My hands shook, coffee spilling over the rim as I set the mug down too hard, brown liquid pooling on the saucer. "You what?" I whispered, voice breaking, tears pricking hot. Alex's hand tightened on my leg, his body shifting protectively closer. Dad confirmed it, unrepentant. "It was for your own good. End this now and we can rebuild. Otherwise, you're disowned, officially." The word disowned echoed, formal, final, like a decree. Silence blanketed the room, thick and suffocating. Clara whispered, "Bella, please," her eyes pleading, but I saw the relief there too. No competition for their favor. Ethan mumbled, "It's tough love," his shoulders hunched, avoiding my gaze. Mom sat back down, composing herself, smoothing her hair with a trembling hand. Dad remained standing, arms crossed, waiting for my surrender. Inside, turmoil raged, hurt twisting into fury, betrayal searing deep. They'd planned this, the trip, the burning, a cruel sabotage to halt the wedding. My happiest day tainted before it began. I stood abruptly, chair toppling backward with a crash, the sound jolting everyone. "You're the ones ruining everything," I said, voice low, venomous. Tears streamed now, unchecked, but I didn't wipe them. Alex rose too, his arm around my waist, steadying me. We turned to leave, my steps wooden, the door seeming miles away. Behind us, Mom's sob, Dad's, "Think about it," but I didn't look back. Outside, rain had stopped, the air crisp, stars peeking through clouds. I collapsed against the car, sobs racking, fists pounding the hood once, denting the metal faintly. Alex pulled me close, his embrace fierce, murmuring, "I'm sorry," into my hair. The verdict was in. They'd cut me off, abandoned me spectacularly, the burned dress a scorched earth symbol. But in the ashes of that betrayal, something hardened in me. This wasn't the end. It was liberation. As we drove home, headlights cutting the dark, my phone stayed silent. No apologies, just the void of their choice. The wedding was tomorrow, and they'd be sipping Mai Tais in paradise, thinking they'd won. But I had Alex, and soon his family. The realization dawned slow. I was free. As we drove home, headlights cutting the dark, my phone stayed silent. No apologies, just the void of their choice. The wedding was tomorrow, and they'd be flying to Hawaii, thinking they'd won. But I had Alex, and soon his family. The realization dawned slow. I was free. Yet in that moment, slumped against the passenger seat, the leather cool under my damp clothes, freedom felt like falling without a net. Tears blurred the passing streetlights into halos, my breaths coming in ragged hitches. Alex kept one hand on the wheel, the other reaching over to intertwine our fingers, his grip firm but not squeezing, giving me space to shatter. "We'll get through this," he murmured, his voice low over the hum of the engine. I nodded, but words stuck in my throat, choked by the image of my dress in flames, lace curling black, dreams reduced to soot in their backyard pit. How could parents do that? The question looped in my mind, a vicious cycle, as we turned onto our street, the familiar houses a blur. We pulled into the driveway, the car jolting slightly over the curb, and Alex killed the engine. Silence rushed in, thick and oppressive, broken only by my sniffles. He unbuckled, turning to face me fully, his face illuminated by the porch light we'd left on. "Bella, look at me." I did, my eyes puffy, mascara streaked like war paint. He brushed a thumb under my eye, smudging the black further. "They're wrong. About everything. You're not ruined, you're incredible." His words pierced the fog, but the humiliation clung, sticky and deep. Disowned, abandoned, dress destroyed. The wedding loomed like a storm cloud, and I pictured walking down the aisle in something borrowed, alone on my side of the church. My chest tightened, a sob escaping as I buried my face in my hands, shoulders shaking. Alex pulled me across the console, awkward but earnest, his arms enveloping me in the cramped space. We sat like that, car cooling with ticks and pings, until my cries subsided to whimpers. Finally I pulled back, wiping my nose on my sleeve, the fabric damp. "What now?" I whispered, voice raw. He kissed my forehead, lingering. "We go inside, sleep if we can, tomorrow we marry anyway." The simplicity of it grounded me, a lifeline in the chaos. We got out, the night air crisp, carrying the faint scent of rain-soaked earth. I fumbled for my keys in my purse, fingers numb, dropping them once with a clatter on the concrete. Alex picked them up, unlocking the door, his hand on the small of my back as we stepped in. The apartment welcomed us, warm lamplight, the faint aroma of the pasta we'd cooked earlier lingering. But it felt different now, like a sanctuary under siege. I kicked off my shoes, toes curling against the hardwood, and headed straight for the couch, collapsing onto the cushions, drawing my knees up. Alex joined me, pulling a throw blanket over us, his body heat seeping through. "Want tea?" he offered, but I shook my head, leaning into his side. My phone, tossed on the coffee table, suddenly buzzed, vibrating against the glass. I froze, heart leaping. Them? An apology? I snatched it up, screen lighting my face. Not my parents. Alex's mom, Linda. A call, not a text. I hesitated, thumb hovering, then answered, putting it on speaker so Alex could hear. "Hello?" My voice cracked, betraying everything. "Bella? Oh, honey, are you okay?" Linda's voice flooded out, warm and concerned, the Midwestern lilt wrapping around me like a hug. Alex's dad, Tom, chimed in from the background. "We just landed. Traffic was a bear." They'd flown in early for the wedding, staying at a nearby hotel. I glanced at Alex, his eyes widening slightly. He hadn't told them about the dinner yet. Not really," I admitted, fresh tears welling. The story spilled out then, halting at first, then rushing, the ultimatum, the burned dress, the Hawaii trip. My words tumbled, punctuated by sniffles, my free hand clenching the blanket. Alex added details when I faltered, his tone steady, but I felt his anger simmering. There was a pause on the other end, the line crackling faintly, then Linda's sharp intake of breath. "They did what?" Her outrage was palpable, voice rising. "Burned your dress? And leaving for vacation? That's unforgivable." Tom muttered something indistinct, then clearer. "Bella, listen to me. You're not alone in this." Their words hit like balm on a burn, soothing the raw edges of humiliation. Linda continued, "We've got you, first things first. The dress. I packed my old veil just in case, but we'll find something beautiful. There's a boutique near the hotel. I'll call them at dawn." Practical, no nonsense, her energy infectious. I pictured her, phone wedged against her shoulder, already jotting notes on hotel stationery. Tom jumped in, his gruff voice softening. "And family? We'll fill the pews if we have to. My sister and the cousins are driving up tomorrow. They adore you." Alex squeezed my hand, his eyes shining with gratitude. The contrast slammed home. My parents' cruelty versus this unwavering support, where mine manipulated and abandoned, his embraced, no conditions. "You don't have to do this," I said, voice small. Linda laughed, a warm chuckle. "Try stopping us, your family already, Bella. Have been since Alex brought you home that first Thanksgiving." Memories flashed. Her kitchen, flour-dusted counters, her teaching me her pie recipe, no judgment, just laughter. Tom's bear hugs, his quiet approval, the call stretched, their voices a lifeline pulling me from the depths. Linda shared stories of her own rocky in-law start, making me laugh through tears, a watery hiccuping sound. "See, it gets better. And tomorrow, we'll make it magical." Tom added logistics. "We'll pick up flowers, handle the setup, you rest." Alex thanked them, his voice thick. As we hung up, promises of breakfast meetups lingering, the apartment felt brighter, the weight lifting fractionally. I set the phone down, hands steadier, and turned to Alex. "Your parents?" I trailed off, awe mixing with envy. He pulled me close, chin on my head. "Our parents now." In that precise moment, the external event, their call, revealed the true scale of my success. Not career wins or accolades, but this chosen family, solid and real. Humiliation's grip loosened as support flooded in, contrasting the void my biologicals left. I wasn't broken, I was bolstered. We talked softly then, planning contingencies, borrowed dress, extra chairs, his fingers tracing mine. Exhaustion crept in, but with it, resolve. Tomorrow I'd walk down that aisle, not despite them, but because of this love. As sleep tugged, curled against Alex, his breathing even, I felt the shift. The betrayal stung, but their support healed, a revelation in the quiet night. Freedom wasn't just absence, it was presence, theirs, unwavering. As sleep tugged, curled against Alex, his breathing even, I felt the shift. The betrayal stung, but their support healed, a revelation in the quiet night. Freedom wasn't just absence, it was presence, theirs, unwavering. But even as my eyelids grew heavy, the apartment's shadows dancing from the streetlight outside, a restlessness stirred in my chest. My mind replayed the dinner, the burned dress, their smug faces as they delivered the blow. Linda's words echoed. "Your family already?" Fueling a fire that wouldn't let me rest. I shifted carefully, not wanting to wake Alex, his arm draped over me, warm and heavy. The clock on the nightstand glowed 1:17 a.m., red digits mocking my insomnia. I slipped out of bed, feet padding softly on the cool floor, grabbing my robe from the chair where it'd slipped earlier. The fabric whispered against my skin as I tied it, cinching the belt tight like armor. In the living room, moonlight filtered through the blinds, striping the couch where we'd sat earlier. My phone lay on the coffee table, screen dark, but I picked it up, thumb unlocking it with a soft click. No missed calls, no texts from them, just the void confirming their abandonment. But something in me snapped, not in defeat, but defiance. Empowered by the in-laws' call, I couldn't let their hypocrisy stand unchallenged. They'd fly off tomorrow, sipping drinks on a beach, while I pieced together my wedding. No more silence. I dialed Mom's number, heart pounding, each ring vibrating through my palm. On the fourth, she answered, her voice groggy but sharp. "Bella? It's the middle of the night, have you come to your senses?" I paced the room, bare feet silent on the rug, the phone pressed to my ear so hard it ached. "No, Mom, the wedding's still on, I wanted you to know that." There was a pause, rustling on her end, sheets shifting, perhaps her sitting up, the bedside lamp clicking on. Dad's muffled voice in the background, "Who is it?" Then Mom, louder, "It's Bella, she says the wedding's happening." More rustling, the phone switching to speaker, Dad's gruff tone joining. "What do you mean it's on? After everything?" Their voices overlapped, a scramble of confusion, like they'd expected me to crumble. Clara's voice faintly, "Mom, what's going on?" They must have woken her, or maybe she was staying over. Ethan grumbled something incoherent. The family huddled in their perfect house, stunned that their plan hadn't worked. Mom recovered first, her tone shifting to that manipulative sweetness, words tumbling fast. "Honey, wait, we can fix this, cancel with Alex and we'll reschedule the flight. We'll buy a new dress, better than the last. Just come over now, we'll talk." Her desperation leaked through, voice pitching higher, the clink of her setting something down, maybe a glass of water. Dad interjected, authoritative but rattled. "Yes, Bella, be reasonable, we're your family, you need us." I heard the creak of floorboards, someone pacing like I was. Clara added, pleading, "Sis, don't do this, we love you." Ethan, yawning but urgent, "Yeah, come on, Hawaii can wait." Their scramble was frantic, a whirlwind of offers and guilt exposing the cracks. They hadn't expected resistance, thought their cruelty would break me. I stopped pacing, leaning against the window frame, the glass cold on my forehead. My breathing steadied, the earlier tears dried, replaced by a calm clarity. This was it, the moment to expose them. "Love me?" I said, voice even, no tremor. "You don't know what love is, it's not burning my dress to control me," Mom gasped, a sharp intake, her denial quick. "It was to help you see." I cut her off, words flowing measured, each one deliberate. "Help? Like how you ignored my achievements, praised Clara and Ethan for less, or demanded I fit your mold, then disown me when I didn't?" Silence stretched, broken by Dad's stutter. We wanted the best for you." I laughed softly, bitter, my free hand clenching the curtain, fabric bunching. "Best for you, you mean? Conditional love, perform or you're out. But Alex, his family? They support without strings. They're flying in helping because they care. Not like you, booking Hawaii to punish me on my wedding day. Their responses piled on, stunned and scrambling harder. Mom's voice cracked. But we're blood. You can't just, Dad barked. Think of the family name. This is embarrassing. Clara whispered. Bella, please, her tone wavering, fingers probably twisting her hair like she did when nervous. Ethan muttered. This is crazy, his yawn forgotten, shifting audibly. They were unraveling, offers turning to please. We'll wire money for a new dress. Come home, we'll cancel the trip. You're overreacting. But I saw through it. The hypocrisy laid bare. They'd destroy my joy to keep control, then pretend concern when it backfired. My heart raced, but my words stayed calm, a quiet storm. Overreacting? You abandoned me, burned my dream to ashes. That's not love, that's manipulation. You've always made me earn affection, compared me, dismissed me, but I'm done. I choose people who choose me, unconditionally. The line buzzed with their chaos, Mom's sobs, fake or real, muffled as if covering her mouth, Dad's heavy breathing, fist thumping the table faintly, Clara's soft no, Ethan's awkward cough. They scrambled to salvage, voices overlapping. Wait. Don't hang up. We can change. But it was too late. I felt powerful, the weight lifting, my stance straightening, robe slipping slightly off one shoulder. Goodbye, I said simply, no malice, just finality. My thumb hovered over the end button, their pleas cutting off midword as I pressed it. The phone went dark, screen reflecting my face, eyes fierce, lips set. I set it down gently, no slam, the click echoing in the quiet room. Alex appeared in the doorway, sleepy-eyed, hair tousled, drawn by the voices. Who was that? He asked, voice thick, stepping closer. I turned, crossing to him, his arms opening automatically. My parents. I told them it's over. He held me, chin on my head, murmuring approval. No more scramble from them. I'd exposed the truth, rejected their game. The powerful exit was mine, hanging up, cutting the cord. Dawn was hours away, the wedding waiting, but for the first time I felt truly free, hypocrisy shattered, my path clear. Back in bed, Alex's warmth enveloping me, sleep came easier. Their stunned voices faded, replaced by Linda's promise, Tom's gruff care. This was the reversal. I wasn't scrambling. They were. And I walked away head high. Back in bed, Alex's warmth enveloping me, sleep came easier. Their stunned voices faded, replaced by Linda's promise, Tom's gruff care. This was the reversal. I wasn't scrambling, they were. And I walked away head high. Morning light filtered through the curtains, soft and golden, pulling me from a dreamless rest. I blinked awake, the events of last night crashing back, the burned dress, the disownment, the phone call confrontation. But beside me, Alex stirred, his hand finding mine under the sheets, fingers lacing automatically. Wedding day, he murmured, voice husky with sleep, a small smile tugging his lips. I squeezed his hand, the ring cool against my skin, and for the first time since the chaos, hope flickered. No parents, no dress. But we had allies. Linda had texted at dawn, meet us at the boutique in an hour, we've got this. The message lit my screen, a beacon in the dim room. We dressed quickly, me in jeans and a simple tee, the fabric soft but my movements jerky with nerves. Alex buttoned his shirt, fingers steady, pausing to kiss my temple. Ready? He asked, eyes searching mine. I nodded, though my stomach nodded, the contrast already sharpening in my mind. Last night's toxic dinner versus whatever warmth awaited. We drove to the boutique, a quaint shop downtown, with lace-curtained windows and a bell that tinkled as we entered. The air smelled of fresh fabric and lavender sachets, a far cry from the resentment-laced roast at my parents' table. Linda spotted us immediately, waving from a rack of gowns, her arms loaded with ivory options. Tom stood nearby, holding coffee cups, his flannel shirt rumpled from the flight. There you are, Linda exclaimed, pulling me into a hug that smelled of vanilla and home. Her embrace was firm, no hesitation, her hands patting my back like a mother's should. Tom handed me a coffee, his grip calloused from years of carpentry, eyes crinkling. Black, 2 sugars, right? I took it, the warmth seeping through the cup, nodding with a lump in my throat. Perfect. They didn't probe about last night. Linda dove straight in, holding up a dress, simple A-line, lace sleeves, nothing ostentatious. Try this, she said, ushering me to the fitting room, her energy bustling but kind. The curtain swished shut, and I slipped into the gown, the zipper whispering up my back. It fit like it was made for me, hugging my curves without pinching, the hem brushing my toes. I stepped out, bare feet on the plush carpet, and they turned. Linda's hands flew to her mouth, eyes misting. "Oh, Bella, you look stunning." Tom nodded gruffly. "Beautiful, kiddo." Alex's gaze softened, his hand reaching for mine, thumb stroking my knuckles. No backhanded jabs, no comparisons, just pure, genuine admiration. We spent the morning there, the boutique owner, a kind woman with pinned-up hair, joining in, pinning hems and suggesting veils. Linda shared stories as I tried on accessories, her laughter filling the space. "When I married Tom, my dress had a rip from dancing too hard at the rehearsal. We laughed it off. Life's too short for perfect." Tom chuckled, sipping his coffee. "And I stepped on her train during vows, nearly toppled us both." Their ease washed over me, dissolving the knots. Unlike my family's dinner, where every word was a minefield, this was effortless, conversations flowing like a gentle stream. Alex chimed in, recounting our first date mishaps, his arm around my shoulders, casual affection that made my heart swell. No ultimatums, no conditions, just support, wrapping me like the dress itself. By noon we'd chosen the gown, a veil from Linda's attic stash, even shoes from the shop's sale rack. Tom paid without fanfare, waving off my protests. "Our gift," he said, patting my shoulder, his touch paternal, steady. We headed to their hotel for lunch, a small cafe attached, outdoor tables under striped umbrellas. The sun warmed my skin as we sat, menus crinkling in our hands. Linda ordered salads and sandwiches, her choices thoughtful. "No heavy stuff. You need energy for tonight." Tom teased Alex about his tie-tying skills, demonstrating with a napkin, their banter light, inclusive. I watched them, the way Linda's hand rested on Tom's arm, a quiet partnership, how they included me in every joke, every decision. "What flowers do you like, Bella? We'll grab extras," Linda asked, pen poised over a napkin list. I suggested lilies, my voice tentative at first, but they nodded eagerly, no dismissal. The contrast hit harder as we ate, the fresh bread crunching, flavors bursting, unlike the ashen taste of last night's pie. My family's table had been a battlefield, Mom's probing eyes, Dad's crossed arms, siblings' averted gazes. Here, eyes met with warmth, arms open. Tom shared advice, gruff but sincere. "Marriage is work, but with the right person, worth it." His gaze flicked to Linda, soft. She squeezed his hand, then turned to me. "You're the right one for our boy. We've seen how you light him up." Tears pricked, but happy ones, my fork pausing mid-bite. Alex's knee bumped mine under the table, a secret smile shared. No hypocrisy, no strings, just acceptance, making me feel seen, valued. As lunch wrapped, relatives arrived, Aunt Sue, cousins from out of town, piling into the cafe with hugs and chatter. "Heard about the dress drama," Aunt Sue whispered, pulling me aside, her perfume floral. "Forget them, we're your crew now." They fussed over me, adjusting my hair, complimenting the gown photos on my phone. The group swelled, laughter echoing, plans solidifying for the venue setup. Tom organized rides, Linda delegated flowers. I stood amid it, the buzz enveloping, a stark opposite to the silent stares at dinner. Where my biologicals had cut me off, these chosen ones pulled me in, their warmth a balm. By afternoon we headed to the venue. A garden chapel, vines climbing stone walls, the air humming with bees. They transformed it, flowers arranged, chairs straightened, no detail overlooked. Linda pinned a corsage on me, her fingers gentle. "Welcome to the family," she said, eyes shining. Tom clapped Alex on the back. "Proud of you both." The genuine moment crystallized here, in their actions. No grand gestures, just steady presence. As the sun dipped, guests arriving, I felt the toxic residue of last night fade, replaced by this new foundation. My true allies, not blood but bond, had turned abandonment into abundance. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows over the garden chapel, the ceremony began. Vows exchanged under a canopy of blooming vines. Alex's eyes locked on mine with a promise that drowned out the echoes of betrayal. Rings slid on, kisses sealed it, and applause from our family filled the air. Their cheers, a chorus of acceptance, that wrapped me tighter than any blood tie ever had. The reception blurred into laughter and dances, Linda twirling me on the floor, Tom toasting with tears in his eyes, no voids where my parents should have been. That night, back in our apartment turned honeymoon suite, with scattered petals and champagne, Alex and I collapsed into bed, limbs entangled, the weight of the day lifting like mist. But as dawn crept in the next morning, reality nudged back, the aftermath waiting, my phone already buzzing with notifications I'd silenced during the vows. I woke to the soft beep of my alarm, set early for our flight to a quick beach getaway. Alex's arm heavy across my waist, his breathing deep and even. The room smelled of wilted flowers from my bouquet on the nightstand, petals curling at the edges. I reached for my phone, screen lighting up with missed calls and texts. Not congratulations, but attempts from them, my biological family, piercing the bubble of joy. Mom's first message at midnight. We landed in Hawaii. Hope you reconsidered. Followed by Dad's, call us, we can still fix this. Clara's wedding pics, miss you. Ethan's, a thumbs up emoji, neutral as ever. My stomach twisted, not with the sharp pain of last night, but a dull ache of finality. They'd posted on social media too. I'd glimpsed it before bed, beach selfies with captions like family recharge. No mention of the wedding they'd sabotaged. The hypocrisy burned anew, but I wasn't crumbling. I was building walls. Sitting up slowly, sheets pooling around me, I felt Alex stir, his hand sliding to my back, rubbing gentle circles. Them? He asked, voice muffled by the pillow, eyes cracking open. I nodded, showing him the screen, the barrage scrolling like an unwanted intrusion. He sat up too, bare-chested, hair tousled, pulling me against his side. What do you want to do? No pressure, just support, his chin resting on my head. I stared at the messages, thumb hovering, the cursor blinking in the reply field. Part of me wanted to lash out, detail every hurt, but that would give them power, pull me back into their orbit. No, this was the moment to establish boundaries, firm, unyielding, a fortress for our new life. Block them, I said, voice steady, surprising myself. Alex kissed my temple. If that's what you need. I started with Mom, her contact open, photo from last Christmas where she smiled fakely beside me. My finger tapped block, the confirmation popping up. Are you sure? I was. The screen refreshed, her messages graying out, inaccessible. A weight lifted, slight but noticeable, like shedding a heavy coat. Dad next, his stern profile pic, the man who declared me disowned. Block. Clara, whose pitying texts now felt like crumbs. Block. Ethan, the silent enabler. Block. Each tap was deliberate, my breaths deepening, no tears this time, just resolve. Alex watched quietly, his hand on my knee, a silent anchor. Siblings too? He asked softly. I nodded. They stood by, enabled it all. The blocks severed the digital ties, but I knew it wasn't enough. They'd find ways, emails, mutual friends, maybe show up unannounced. We talked then over coffee in the kitchen, steam rising from mugs as I paced the tile floor, bare feet cool against the surface. Alex leaned on the counter sipping slowly, his pajama pants low on his hips. What about emails? Social? I set rules aloud, testing them. No responses, delete unread, unfollow everywhere. And if they show up, he prompted, eyebrow raised. I paused, stirring sugar into my cup, the spoon clinking rhythmically. We don't answer the door, change locks if needed. It sounded extreme, but after the burned dress, the abandonment, it felt necessary. Our new life, marriage, maybe kids someday, deserved protection from their toxicity. Alex nodded, pulling out his phone. I'll handle the security app, add alerts. His practicality grounded me, turning abstract boundaries into action. The attempts came faster once they realized. An email from Mom popped in as we packed. Bella, we saw the posts from Alex's family. Congratulations, call us. I deleted it without reading further, my fingers swift, no hesitation. Dad's voicemail next, his voice tinny through the speaker. This is ridiculous, we're back in a week, expect a visit. I blocked the number anew, the action empowering, my posture straightening. Clara tried through a friend, mutual acquaintance texting. Your sis wants to chat. I replied curtly, not interested, then blocked her too. Ethan's approach was lazier, a DM on an old app. Hey, chill out, gone in a swipe. Each block built the fortress higher, bricks of self-preservation stacking. By midday, suitcases zipped, we sat on the couch, my head on Alex's shoulder, the apartment quiet save for the hum of the fridge. Feels final, I admitted, twisting my new wedding band, the metal smooth. He squeezed my hand. It is, and that's okay. We discussed the new rules explicitly, no family events involving them, holidays with his folks only. If they persisted, legal steps, restraining order if escalated. It wasn't revenge, it was safeguarding our peace. Linda called then, her voice bright. Honeymoon bound? Send pics. No probing, just joy. The contrast reinforced it. Chosen family respected boundaries, biologicals bulldozed them. As we headed to the airport, wheels rumbling on pavement, my phone stayed silent now, blocks in place. A final text slipped through from an unknown number. Mom's alternate. We love you. I stared, heart tugging briefly, then deleted and blocked. Love? Not like this. At the gate, Alex held my hand, boarding pass in the other. New chapter, he said. I leaned into him, the fortress solid, our life within it blooming. As the plane touched down from our honeymoon, a blissful week of sun-soaked beaches and lazy mornings in a tiny cabana, Alex's hand always finding mine during sunset walks, the city skyline came into view through the window. Familiar buildings rising like old friends. But something in me had shifted during those days away. The boundaries we'd set solidifying into a foundation, no longer just walls but a base to build upon. My phone, powered on during descent, pinged with work emails pulling me back to reality. No messages from them, the blocks holding firm, a quiet victory that made my shoulders relax against the seat. Alex glanced over, his fingers brushing my arm, the new tan on his skin glowing. Back to it, he said, squeezing gently before grabbing our carry-ons from the overhead bin, his movements efficient, protective. We navigated the airport bustle, my suitcase wheels rumbling over the tiled floor, and hailed a cab home, the driver chatting about traffic while I stared out at the passing streets, mind already turning to what came next. At work the following Monday, the office hummed with the usual rhythm, colleagues typing at desks, the scent of fresh coffee from the break room wafting through. I'd taken the week off, but my inbox overflowed with project updates, my role as marketing lead demanding attention. I settled into my cubicle, the chair creaking under me, fingers hovering over the keyboard before diving in. But as I reviewed a campaign brief for a new client, a nonprofit focused on family counseling and emotional support, the words on the screen blurred, my thoughts drifting to my own story. The betrayal, the burned dress, the severance. It wasn't just personal anymore. It was a fire I could channel. My hands stilled, mouse clicking idly as an idea sparked. Use my skills to amplify voices like mine, turn pain into purpose. No grand plan yet, just a quiet internal realization blooming as I sipped my cooling coffee, the mug warm in my palms. The realization deepened during a team meeting that afternoon, the conference room stuffy with the air conditioner's faint hum, projector beaming slides onto the wall. My boss, Sarah, outlined the nonprofit project. We need to market their services, workshops on healthy boundaries, support for adult children of dysfunctional families. She glanced around the table, her pen tapping the notepad. Colleagues nodded, jotting notes, but my heart raced, a flush creeping up my neck. When it was my turn to speak, I leaned forward, elbows on the table, voice steadier than I felt. I have ideas, personal ones. Heads turned, eyes curious, no judgment. I shared snippets, not the full saga but enough, conditional love, cutting ties, finding chosen family. My fingers traced the edge of my notebook, pages flipping under my thumb as I spoke, the paper's texture grounding me. We could focus on empowerment stories, real testimonials, campaigns that show reclaiming your narrative. Sarah's eyes lit, her nod encouraging. Run with it, Bella, make it yours. Back at my desk, the afternoon sun slanting through blinds, casting stripes on my keyboard, I dove deeper. I sketched concepts on a legal pad, pencil scratching rapidly, taglines like family by choice, strength by design, visuals of diverse groups supporting each other, not bloodbound but bond strong. My mind raced, connecting my marketing expertise to this. SEO for reach, social media hooks to draw in the invisible ones like I'd been. But it was more. It was reclaiming the family name. Mine, tainted by their legacy of control, but now mine to redefine. I typed furiously, emails to the nonprofit outlining pitches, my chair swiveling as I paced mentally. A colleague popped by, coffee in hand. You okay? Seem fired up. I smiled, genuine, pushing hair behind my ear. Yeah, this hits home. The realization crystallized over the next hours, alone in the office as others filtered out, the building quieting, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. I pulled up family photos on my phone, not the old ones but new. Wedding shots with Linda and Tom beaming, Alex's cousins laughing. My thumb scrolled, pausing on our group shot, faces alive with joy. This was legacy. Not the surname I'd shared with manipulators, but one built on authenticity. I closed the app, opening design software, mocking up ads, a woman standing tall, shadows of judgmental figures fading behind her, text overlay, reclaim your story. My mouse clicked precisely, adjusting fonts, colors, soft blues for calm, bold reds for strength. Each edit felt like erasure, overwriting their narrative with mine. No revenge, just positive impact, helping others spot red flags, set boundaries, embrace chosen kin. By evening, files saved, I packed up, bags slung over shoulder, the weight lighter. Alex met me for dinner at our favorite Italian spot, the aroma of garlic and tomato sauce enveloping as we sat at a corner table, candle flickering between us. He listened as I unpacked the day, his fork twirling pasta, eyes on me. "Sounds powerful," he said, reaching across to cover my hand, his thumb stroking my wedding band. "You're turning it into good." I nodded, squeezing back, the linen napkin bunching under my other palm. We talked details, how the campaign could go viral, partnerships with influencers sharing similar tales. His input was thoughtful, no overshadowing, just collaboration. Dessert arrived, tiramisu shared, spoons clinking, and I felt the internal shift settle. This was reclamation. Using my success, the career they'd dismissed, to uplift, rebranding family on my terms. Not their conditional mold, but expansive, inclusive. Home that night, curled on the couch with Alex, his arm around me, TV murmuring low, I reflected deeper. The realization wasn't sudden, it built through micro moments. The pencil's graphite smudge on my finger, the satisfying ping of sent emails, the warmth of his touch affirming my path. I'd create impact, workshops marketed to reach thousands, stories amplified to heal. The family name? Mine now, synonymous with resilience, not control. As sleep neared, head on his chest, his heartbeat steady under my ear, I knew this was the positive turn. Legacy reclaimed, not through confrontation, but creation. As sleep neared, head on his chest, his heartbeat steady under my ear, I knew this was the positive turn. Legacy reclaimed, not through confrontation, but creation. But true peace didn't settle in that night, or the next. It came gradually, culminating in a quiet morning weeks later, alone in my home office. The campaign I'd poured myself into finally launching. The room was bathed in soft daylight filtering through the half-open blinds, casting warm stripes across my desk, cluttered with notes and empty coffee mugs. I'd woken early before Alex stirred, slipping into yoga pants and a worn sweater, the fabric soft against my skin from too many washes. The apartment was silent, save for the distant hum of traffic outside, a city awakening. I padded to the kitchen first, brewing coffee, the machine gurgling as ground steeped, the rich aroma filling the air. Mug in hand, steam curling up to fog my glasses slightly, I settled at my desk, powering on the computer with a soft whir. The screen lit up, emails already piling in, feedback on the nonprofit campaign, inspiring, relatable, shares climbing on social media. I clicked through analytics, numbers ticking up, but it wasn't the metrics that held me. It was the comments, strangers pouring out stories. This helped me see my own family's patterns. Finally setting boundaries. Thank you. My finger scrolled slowly, each word a mirror to my past, validating not just them, but me. I paused on one. Your ad made me realize my worth isn't in their approval. Tears pricked, hot and unexpected, blurring the text. I set the mug down, the ceramic thunking softly, and leaned back in my chair, the leather creaking under my weight. This was it. The final reflection, unfolding in solitude, no grand epiphany but a deep, internal settling. I closed my eyes, breathing in the coffee's bitterness, letting memories surface without resistance. The child me, small hands clutching report cards, hoping for praise that came laced with buts. Teen me, at dinner tables, voice shrinking as siblings shone. Adult me, chasing promotions, engagements, always measuring against their yardstick. The engagement to Alex had been the flashpoint, their manipulation peaking in that burned dress, the ultimate symbol of control, torched to ashes. I'd replayed it endlessly. Mom's smug nod, Dad's cold decree, the siblings' averted eyes. But now in this quiet space, fingers tracing the desk's wood grain, knots rough under my touch, I saw it differently. Their actions weren't about my failings, they were theirs. Conditional love was no love at all. It was a chain I'd broken, link by painful link. The realization deepened as I stood, crossing to the window, pulling the blinds fully open. Sunlight flooded in, warming my face, highlighting dust motes dancing in the air. My worth wasn't in their validation, or even in Alex's unwavering support, Linda's hugs, Tom's gruff nods. It was internal, a core I'd always had but buried under their expectations. Marketing wasn't little, as Dad sneered, it was my tool for connection, for healing. The campaign proved it, using my voice to empower, turning invisibility into visibility for others. I wasn't the outcast, I was the architect of my peace. A smile tugged my lips, small at first, then fuller, as I watched birds flit between buildings outside, free in their flight. But peace wasn't erasure, it was acceptance. I acknowledged the ache, the what-ifs of a family that could have been. What if they'd celebrated my wins, embraced Alex without judgment? My hand pressed against the glass, cool and unyielding, mirroring the boundary I'd set. Blocking them hadn't been easy. Deleted emails still whispered doubts in quiet moments. Yet, each day without their jabs, the space grew, filled with authentic joys. Alex's morning kisses, his hand slipping into mine during walks, dinners with his family, laughter unforced, work that mattered, campaigns sparking change. My reflection in the window stared back, eyes clearer, shoulders unbowed. I'd reclaimed not just the legacy but myself. Worth was here, in the beat of my own heart, the choices I made daily. As the morning progressed, I returned to the desk, replying to comments personally, my typing rhythmic, purposeful. "You're stronger than you know," I wrote to one, fingers flying. It was for them, but also for me, a mantra etched deeper. Alex emerged then, hair rumpled, yawning as he leaned in the doorway. "Early start?" he asked, voice gravelly. I turned, chair swiveling, and pulled him close for a hug, his arms wrapping around me, chin on my head. No words needed. He felt the shift, his hold tightening briefly. We shared breakfast after, eggs scrambling in the pan, toast popping, talking lightly about the day. But inside the peace anchored, a calm sea after storms. By midday, the reflection had woven into certainty. I stepped out for a walk, jacket zipped against the crisp air, leaves crunching underfoot in the park nearby. Benches dotted the path and I sat on one, watching joggers pass, dogs tugging leashes. My phone buzzed, a campaign update, more positive ripples. I pocketed it, tilting my face to the sun, eyes closing. The journey's pain had forged this. Self-validation, not sought externally but claimed internally. No more chasing, I was enough. Peace wasn't a destination but a state, one I'd cultivated through severance, support, and creation. As I rose, steps lighter, heading home, the world felt aligned. Not perfect, but mine. The afternoon blurred into routine, calls, edits, but the internal peace hummed beneath. A constant note. Evening brought Alex home, takeout bags rustling, and we ate on the couch, feet tangled. "You seem settled," he observed, chopsticks pausing. I nodded, leaning into him. "I am." The reflection complete, worth internalized, true peace found in the quiet affirmation of self. Have you ever felt like your worth was tied to someone else's approval, only to realize it was always inside you? That's what hit me after everything, the betrayals, the boundaries, the new beginnings. I stood up to my parents' emotional abuse, severed those toxic ties, and embraced the unconditional love from my chosen family. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. If you've gone through something similar, whether it's family drama or finding your own strength, share your story in the comments below. How did you reclaim your peace? Your experiences could inspire someone else scrolling through right now. So what do you think? Did I go too far or not far enough in cutting them off? Drop a comment below, like if this resonated, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories of turning pain into power. Remember, your worth is yours. No one else's to define. Keep shining.